Restart India presents Let's Talk Business, a talk show curated and presented by Restart India, an initiative started by Muthoot Fincorp Limited in partnership with Inc. Restart India came into being during the initial days of the lockdown with an aim to address the concerns of small businesses. One of the ways we connect with our community of small businesses is through our live events. At Restart India, while we are running on-ground campaigns to support and restart micro and nano businesses, the talk shows and live events are aimed to create a community wherein the advice from one entrepreneur or mentor can help other startups learn, share views, and grow. Our live events also create awareness to enable the community to come together and support small and local businesses. In this new edition of live events, we call Let's Talk Business. It is a conversation between entrepreneurs who run small businesses. We want to hear from them on how they ideated, set up their business, the challenges they faced, and how they have come to be where they are now.
Restart India. Hello everyone. On 23rd August 2021, Restart India turned 1. We hope all of you had a chance to watch our 1-year celebrations. Now, as we move ahead into our second year, we want to focus and streamline our efforts in uplifting the nano and small businesses. Good evening, everyone. I'm Shraddha Narayanan, Program Manager for Restart India. Our live events are specially curated for young entrepreneurs who are just starting on their journey. In this format that we call the Let's Talk Business, we feature people who have had their own success stories as entrepreneurs. And we discuss a broad range of topics that could help you and inspire you and your startup story. If you want to partner with us or share your story, or you would like to collaborate with Restart India to help other small businesses, please do log in to our newly revamped website, www.restartindia.in. We have lots of avenues there that you can pitch in. You can choose to associate with us in whatever way you want in our Get Involved page. All right, we are moving on, and we want to take efforts to help nano and micro businesses a bit further this time. We want them to understand the O2 mode, offline and online mode. We've already covered a range of topics. We've talked about social media marketing, brand presence, small business identity, and uniqueness in our chat shows over the last year. We now want to look at topics with a deeper lens. When we think about the major challenges that small businesses have faced, something that has come to the rescue of many businesses this past year actually came to mind. Last mile delivery. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. Our topic for tonight is how a robust supply chain coupled with effective data-driven marketing helps businesses grow. And to discuss this, I have two wonderful panelists with me today. Let me introduce Chris John and Mayank Jain. Chris John is the CEO and founder of Social Tribe, a performance marketing agency. He and his team have helped brands across the world scale their revenues by understanding how the ever-changing algorithms work. In his free time, he loves to cook. He watches almost every sport that there is. And he is usually debating in his head why Messi is the greatest player to play the game. Oh, well, we all think about that, don't we? Our next panelist is Mayank. Mayank is the founder of Rusabl, focused on making sustainable lifestyle affordable and accessible. Prior to this, Mayank was the founder of a solar power solution startup. Mayank's interest lies in design, marketing, and he enjoys developing solutions that solve everyday problems. His passion includes traveling to less explored destinations. Chris, Mayank, welcome so much to Restart India, Let's Talk Business. I'm so glad that both of you are here. How are you guys doing today?
Hi, Shraddha. Firstly, thank you for getting us on the show.
Amazing.
I'm doing great. Yeah, thank you.
Chris, what
Hey,
about you? How are
yeah,
you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thanks, Shraddha, for having us here. It's just a pleasure just to be here, and it's been a pleasure to associate with Restart India for the last 1 year, to help see small scale businesses grow again after what happened in 2020. It's been a pleasure to be part of that.
Thank you so much, Chris. And I think we've also benefited a lot from your advice and the multiple brainstorming sessions that we have had with you. Mayank, you are new to our Restart India community and really glad that you could be a part. So let's get started. Our show is divided into 5 segments, and in each segment, we'll be discussing topics that are relevant to running a business. The first segment we call the what, when, why factor. This is the rationale behind everything a business does. These are the factors and the foundation and the building blocks that decide the success of any enterprise, from the smallest to the largest businesses. Our idea to bring this segment in is to inspire like-minded businesses to learn from you. So Mayank, I'll begin with you.
Sure.
Cruelty-free, sustainable, all natural. This is what I read aloud when I looked at Rusabl products. Where did the journey begin?
I think the journey began back in 2018, I can say, when I was traveling across the Himachal, right, just backpacking. And when I was there for around 4 months, I was at Spiti Valley, and I was just charging my phone, right? So there's this place where there's no food. Food comes from like 50 kilometers down, right, down the hill.
Yeah.
And I'm charging my phone, and I'm just wondering, how is that even possible, right? There's no food and there's electricity. That is when I came across solar power, right? And that is where it all began.
All
And
right.
yeah, and then that led to a lot of things, and I started a solar company, and then which didn't work out for various reasons. And then I came across this article again, which said that there's a plastic ban in Bombay. uh, so out of the blue, I start getting these ads about steel straws and all of that, and I start exploring more, right? And that is where it all actually began. And when one thing led to another, and I was introduced to the zero waste community that is there. There are a lot of gaps that I personally found, which were blocking me from leading that sort of a lifestyle. And then if I could find that solution, why not give it to the masses, right? And that is how the whole journey began, I can say.
So is Rusable a take on reusable? Is that how you found the brand name?
Yes,
Or,
yes,
or
yes. So we wanted a word which would be very easy to relate, right? Earlier we were called Minimo, by the way. Rusabl
okay.
was a rebranding exercise that we did because of certain trademark issues that we faced when we were trying to register the word Minimo, right? And given the period of time that we had to transition, we had to come up with something, right? And we thought, why don't we do a tongue twister, where
Uh,
when people use our products, whether they want it or not, they are actually taking out the name and they're thinking of us, right? So that is when we came up with the word Rusable, and I
that's
think that did
nice.
a lot of good for us. Yeah.
That's great. Very nice to hear that, Mayank. Chris, I'll come to you now. In 2018, you started your journey with Social Tribe. Social Tribe primarily focuses on data-driven marketing.
Yeah.
Data-driven marketing seems like a very big word. Can you explain in very simple language, what does it even mean, and what is it that Social Tribe does?
Yeah, so I think where this came from was from the perspective. Well, I'm an IT guy. I started my career in IT. I worked in Accenture for a couple of years, and I realized that IT isn't my thing. I kind of knew that back in engineering, but I just continued with it for a while. While I was in Mumbai, I moved to Mumbai for a bit, and I got the opportunity to be a consultant with an agency over there, and they were working with some of the biggest brands in India at that point of time. And I was just looking at a few campaigns that they ran, and I asked a few questions in terms of the data that I saw, and no one in the room had an answer for it. And I went to them and like, guys, come on, you cannot not know this. You have to know like what's actually happening with these campaigns. So that I realized post that while I was in Mumbai, I worked with a lot of small businesses over there. Is that small businesses don't have the budgets to overpay for big agencies that actually do data level marketing, right? And that started my journey with founding companies to help small to medium scale businesses and startups as well, to understand how data can be used in marketing, right? Which for a long period of time in the digital marketing space was not done correctly. So data driven marketing in a nutshell is just trying to understand what a few data points are, what the important data points are for you to make decisions on your future marketing campaigns or your future advertising decisions, right? And
Okay.
that's why the whole term data driven marketing is what we
All
hold
right.
for at Social Tribe. Yeah.
So you rely on data which has already been accumulated or which is present to drive your marketing strategies forward for your company?
Well, not for we don't. I mean, we of course we market for Social Tribe as well, but it's for other
Yeah.
businesses
For other
that's
businesses.
yeah, for other
Okay.
businesses. So it depends. A lot of businesses don't have pre-existing data, right? So we have to develop that data for them, and then we have to tell them what exactly are the key data points that you should be concerned about. It's not the
Right.
same for every business, and it's not the same at different stages of different businesses as well. It changes, it evolves. So, yeah, so it's different for different perspectives.
Great, great. So we have really vast experience between you, Mayank, who into sustainability, and Chris into data-driven marketing. I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation. Which brings me to my next question, Mayank. Sustainability isn't a new concept, right? In fact, now it looks like it's in vogue. But if we look back, maybe our former generations were actually more conscious consumers. So I want to understand, in your opinion, what has changed the culture and why is it a pressing issue now? And a follow-up to that would be, if we do use sustainable products, by how much percentage are we actually reducing the waste and what impact is it making? Because I always tell, reuse certain things. Oh, one straw or one plastic spoon not going to make a difference. It's okay. I'm just using one, right? So that's still prevalent. So what is your take on that? Why do you think the culture is changing, and what has changed from previous to now? And now how much can we go ahead and do?
So to break it down easily, I think it's a circle that has come, right? It's coming to a full end. So like you said that we were living this lifestyle before, right? And when we were living this lifestyle, we plastic was an innovation then, right? Which was
Yeah.
innovated to make a lot of new things, which was innovated to make things easier, right? And when we started using that as humans, we did not really think about the environment because that was not the concern at that point at all, right? But the dependency increased so much that we forgot our roots, right? We forgot how our great grandparents used to live, how people used to live earlier, and how life was very simple and not complicated, right? There was a stick with which people used to brush, right?
Yeah.
It was just very easy, right? And then convenience came into the picture, right? As convenience came into the picture, I mean, what would you want, right? More than convenience? There's nothing else that you would want. Convenience at a cheaper price is the best thing ever, right? So that came into the picture, and with that, we saw a lot of business opportunities and a lot of things happened. Right now, fast forwarding to today, what has happened is our dependency on this has increased so much that we're starting to see a lot of impact on a very macro level, right? If you see people start talking about climate change, you see a lot of activists doing a lot of things, you see a lot of government talking about
Yeah.
this, right? All of that is happening, and you sitting in one corner of this whole ecosystem thinking on how can you contribute, right? Even I think, how can I contribute, right? ठीक है, government बात कर रही है, there are people talking, there are a lot of people doing a lot
Yeah.
of things, but how do I do this at a very basic level, right? And the best way to do it would be to replace your everyday basics with something which is more sustainable, right? With something which has been done in the past, can be done now, right? Why it's coming into the picture now, why a lot of people are talking, is because we can see serious impacts happening now, right? Well, scientists have been telling about it from the past 15-20 years. We are seeing some sort of imbalances happening, right? I mean, at a
Yeah.
very macro level, again, I mean, not affecting you and me, but there are things happening for sure,
Yes. Yes.
right? And how do you and I contribute? I think it can be with a very basic thing of making our everyday lifestyle more I can say more conscious, right? And to make that, the problem again is there are not a lot of solutions outside which are providing you that,
Yeah.
and it's very expensive, So that was a gap that I also found, and that is where I started working on Rusabl, right? And why? And we're trying to make it very cool and very trendy by giving it a touch where it becomes a part of your lifestyle, right? And somewhere I think not just Rusabl is at a very very micro level, I can say, but a lot of people collectively doing this is actually creating the buzz, and it is becoming a new normal now, right? It is a
Yeah.
lot of people collectively trying to spread this lifestyle is what is making it normal. And at an individual level, when you say, right, it's just a toothbrush that I'm using, how is it going to affect, right? It's just me. So a fun fact, the first toothbrush that was ever created, right, the plastic toothbrush is still there in the landfill. It's not gone. And if you think you've used it and you've thrown in and it's gone, no, it's not. It's there. Either it's into some turtle's nose or maybe into some animal, or it's just there, right? I mean, when you think of it, it sounds bad, right?
Yeah.
And so that into 12 billion, right? That
Imagine.
is the number of toothbrushes that are there outside, right? So when we think of an individual level, I think you need to think you into the number of people that are there out there. Then you see the impact, and not just if I just use one straw, nothing is going to happen. But if everybody starts thinking like you, then where is it even going to start, right?
Correct.
And
I
to
think,
answer this question, we're just making it easier and more convenient by giving solutions which are affordable and which can be user friendly. Right? Just trying. I mean, so yeah.
lot of areas for innovation in that. Like you rightly mentioned, there are not many in pocket solutions. And yes, the way you put it, multiply yourself into billion, then you understand what impact you will have. Very nicely put, Mayank.
Yeah.
Uh, Chris, uh, something which has been, has brought to light in this pandemic. Everything is available on the internet, and looks like internet belongs to everyone now. Comments, anybody can comment, opinion, everything. But how much of the data that's actually available on the internet is actually reliable? And there was this term called hidden data, which hasn't been explored. Is that true? And if yes, it hasn't been explored, what is it? And can you give us some examples to help us understand?
First off, the availability of data on the internet. I mean, you can find anything
Yeah.
that's anything that you want
Yeah.
will be there on the internet. But finding it is a problem, right? Finding it is a huge problem in terms of finding the data and then finding the right source for the data
Correct.
as well, right? For businesses across India, they require and need data sources to provide them, uh, whether it's sheets of data or huge downloads of data for them to operate businesses. Right now, say for example, you're a small business, and you're looking to sell to your customer. It would be so much easier to sell to the customer if you could just go right up to the customer and talk to them about
Correct.
your service, about your product, or what you're actually doing, right? But unfortunately, you won't be able to do that because you don't have their contact numbers, you don't have their phone numbers, you don't have their you don't have their email IDs or addresses, right? So what do? You put it up on social media, you put it up on your family WhatsApp group, you send it
Yeah.
across to friends and hope someone
Yeah.
comes and buys from you, right? And people will come from buy from you. That's definitely going to happen. And then over a period of time, it'll compound and compound again, and finally you'll have a suite of customers that keep coming to you, right? And that's
Yeah.
how most traditional businesses are.
Yeah.
But the businesses that are able to grow, from a small business to be able to scale don't do that, right? They go out there and find sources of data that allows them to directly contact their customers. Now, these pieces of data are available online. The legality of it is a huge question, but it's available, right? Phone numbers, email IDs, addresses to a certain level, all of this data is out there, right? Which is why when you open your email inbox sometime in the morning and you see a random email from, say, Reliance Geo, but you've never signed up for Reliance Geo and you're wondering, hey, how did they email me? This is probably how, right?
Ah.
So it's out there, but finding it is difficult. Now, another problem is how reliable is it? It isn't too reliable. These data sources combine pieces of data or other sources of data together and hope things match. That's basically it's just they just hope things match, right? Again, we are talking about um, uh, data sheets of millions of users. It's not like there's a single person going through it and verifying it, right? They use algorithms and they automate the formation of these sheets from various data sources. So the lot of the people who sell these pieces of data or provide it on the internet do not really do a lot of background checking to ensure the data is as verifiable as it can be, right? But that's all you get from here, and this is a huge problem in India. There are a number of other existing problems that contribute to this, but it is a huge problem. Reliability of data is definitely a problem here.
Great. Thanks, Chris. You mentioned some interesting points which actually I wasn't aware. All right. So now we've got an understanding of Mayank and Chris's jobs. So let's move on to the next segment and let's start hearing something interesting from them. Our next segment is called Snippets. Uh, Entrepreneurship is a journey where the person embarking on the journey has different aspects to focus on, right? For someone managing everything on their own, like Mayank mentioned, it's a tough task. Let's understand how these two do it so well. While Mayank, Chris, some experiences you might have had must have been frustrating. I'm sure there must have been some experiences which have been fun or have been paths changing for you. So I want to just ask each one of you to recall an incident in your journey that has given you a moment like, oh, wow, this sounds super fun. But when you started applying it, maybe it was challenging or funny or whatever. And it made you maybe made it a thumb rule of your business or made you completely change your business model. So Mayank, why don't we start with you? Do you have any incident in your journey so far which you can narrate to us?
I think it was very funny the way the whole thing around sustainability and Minimo started, right, for me. Because and I was just reading, I was done with my solar business and I was just exploring. And at 2 a.m., I'm just reading this article, right, on Facebook saying there's a plastic ban on Maharashtra. And this I see
Yeah.
this Amazon ad which started following me, right? So out of frustration is when I bought that product on Amazon,
Okay.
and right, and I didn't really like it, and that was another frustrating thing, that why are people selling pipes, right? And I think that is where was the eureka moment, I can say, where thought let's make this, and I got into manufacturing out of the blue, right? I started exploring, meeting more people, and understanding how things are made. And with an investment of 5,000 rupees, I was able to come up with a small machine to make straws, and just started, right? I mean, so I think not a funny moment, I can say, but that would be one of the moments where I thought that, you know what, it's if you just want to do something, it's not really difficult. I mean, it's just you just need to start. I think starting is what is difficult, I feel. And yeah, I mean, when I started also, it was pretty funny because I was carrying straws across, giving it to restaurants, and everybody's wondering what this guy is up to, right? And it's a little funny at that time, but now when we say people that we sell around maybe 40, 50,000 straws a month in pieces,
Wow.
and that is just to online customers, and that is when, you know, people think, okay, wow, there is something happening here. So at times you might think that something that you're doing is very funny or senseless, but if you think that it's making sense, then you should just go for it, because when it starts making sense for you, because you know what it is, it will start making sense to others as well over a period of time. So yeah.
One of the best things I've heard, Mayank. Yeah, well, I think a lot of us have these kind of incidents, but what is inspiring is you've taken it up and made a business out of it. So I think that is what people who are listening should take it, right? It might seem like why nobody's doing this. Why don't you go ahead and do it? I think very inspiring, Mayank. Thanks. Chris, what about you? Any incident you can recall?
Um, Usually, a lot of my frustrated incidents just keep me frustrated. They don't really turn around into a funny incident for me. Um, but I mean, one thing that I go back on, and I keep thinking about this, is that how I started running a business years back is vastly different from how I do things right now, and I will continue to evolve. I know that it's a learning experience, as you surround yourself with people who are technically smarter than you and probably know more than you. You keep talking to them, you keep absorbing information from as many people as possible. You tend to start applying that in your day to day, whether it's in life or your business. So one thing that I found very frustrating early on in my entrepreneurial journey was the ability to get stuff done. Because you start the day with 12 preset tasks, and I'm a slight taskmaster when it comes to setting tasks up for the day. Like I know at 8 a.m. what I need to do by the end of the day. By 12 p.m., those 12 have become 34. And by 6 p.m., you're done with two of those tasks because the other 20 tasks that have come in are way more important than those two. And so at 9 p.m., you're completely exhausted, you're out of energy, and you're done with three of those 12, right? So I've had to evolve how I decide on how I prioritize things, how I structure my day. That's been a huge learning for me, and it was very frustrating for me early on. Yeah, it's not funny, but yeah, it's still kind of.
But I think that's a
Yeah.
constant struggle, right? I mean, where do you find those time blocks where you can actually get stuff done, which matters? Yeah, I think everyone needs to find their own way of getting that done. So we've already started getting questions from the audience. So I just want to let everyone know, please continue to post your questions on our YouTube channels, wherever you're watching the stream. The last part of this talk show would be addressing your questions by Mayank and Chris. So please keep them coming. We'll get to it in about, I think, 20 minutes. All right. So let's move to the next section called as Gyan Time. Businesses that are completely online need a great strategy and out-of-box thinking to stay relevant. With these emerging trends for analytics, everything is at our fingertips, right? So Chris, with your expertise in working with several clients, what are the steps? I mean, just tell us like 1, 2, 3 or hacks you use to build a solid data-driven marketing plan for a client. If I am someone who's looking at data points when I am starting out, and what should I review? If you were looking at a person who wants to start in data-driven marketing, what are the 3 quick steps which you will recommend to them based on your experience?
Yeah, so the very first thing is really try to understand what is the objective that you're trying to achieve out of this activity. Now, marketing is a continuous process that happens for every single business. No business can live without it in some form or the other, right? But it's different for every business, right? For example, the most widely used example in recent times is how Tesla does not advertise. But Elon Musk has, I don't know, half the population of the planet on his Twitter profile, right? So he puts up a tweet, he changes the market, right? So that's their marketing. But for 99.99% of the business out there, they can't follow that same strategy. So what do? So be very clear and understand what your objective is, at least for the short term. And then you can have a very long-term objective of a year to 3 years to 5 years, whatever, right? The second thing is understand where your customers are, right? Just because social media exists does not mean social media works for everyone, right? There are a lot of businesses out there where social media is just there. It's a placeholder, right? So I'll give you, try to give you 2 contrasting examples here, right? If you're a restaurant, right, do you really need a website, right? Are you really going to drive sales from a website? No one's going to order through you because Swiggy and Zomato exists. No one's going to come to your website to check your menu out because Zomato exists, right? So why do you need a website? Yeah, a website is nice to have, just for the sake of having it. People can come there, check you guys out, but that's about it, right? So don't give so much importance to building a website, building your Google Analytics. Instead, understand where your customers are. Your customers are going to be on Swiggy and Zomato, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you can influence the decision to buy from. Your customers are also potentially, depending on age group, demographics, where they're from, potentially going to be on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Hack that, right? Get people who are popular on Instagram, what you call influencers, to come to your restaurant and post about you, right? People in your locality will then know more about you, right? And then keep social media pages that reflect who you're doing, right? And that would be a completely different strategy than say someone who's opening up a paint business, or someone who's distributing paint, or is a distributor of Asian paints, for example, right? That guy doesn't really need social media. No one's going to
Yeah,
come to his social media page, his or her social media page, and say, "Hey, this guy sells paint. Let's buy from him." That's not what a customer is going to do, right? A
correct.
customer is going to try checking you out online. He's going to Google about you. He's going to read reviews about your website, about your business, and then potentially he's going to come to your website and then make a decision whether you're a trusted person or not, a
Yeah.
trusted business or not, right? So in that case, a website makes a lot of sense. And then to ensure that if you do have a lot of competition potentially in that locality or wherever the person is going to be, and you want to show up first, then you can potentially look at things like Google Ads and or writing a few articles, whatever. There are a lot of other things that you want to show up first, right? That's the main objective here, right? So now your strategy has completely changed, right? And the
Correct.
only way you can create a strategy is very first understand what your objective is and understand where your customers are and on what channels, right? There are a lot of businesses out there that spend crores of rupees or millions of dollars on radio and TV, right? They still have to. They cannot stop spending that. A lot of people say, why are they spending that on TV when they can be spending that on social media? It doesn't work because a lot of their customers are 46, 60-year-old who don't spend
Who
so much
watch
time on
TV?
social media. And even if they do spend time on social media, they don't get influenced by social media to make decisions to
Yeah.
purchase, while a TV ad does that, right? So companies realize that, right? So understanding where your objective is, understanding the channels where your customers are number one. The second thing is please set a goal or a metric that you want to look at, right? If you're a new brand that's launching, your goal should never be how many purchases am I getting or how many actual sales am I getting. Of course, it's great to have. It's the cherry on top of the cake. But your very first thing is how many people am I reaching? Are they coming back to me, right? Is that happening? Am I creating some form of interest or not? If I'm not creating a form of interest, is my product or what I'm selling not good enough? Is the price point not good enough? So you're trying to figure out, it's basically a product market fit kind of stage. We're trying to figure out whether your business is what your customer wants, right? And you keep iterating on that, right? So understand what stage of the business you are, and then understand what metric you should be looking at. Once you have all this, double down on things that work for you and try for the time being, depending on the budgets that you have, ignore the things that don't work for you for now, right? Focus on things that
Yeah.
work for you, put all your effort into that, try to acquire as many customers as you can, and then focus later on creating a strategy for those other channels that haven't worked for you before. Those would be, in a
That's
nutshell, the first three steps that I would run through with a
perfect.
smaller emerging business.
Thanks, Chris. I think it makes a lot of sense. A lot of times, I think businesses just want to make the mistake of just going all out in all different areas and lose focus. It's better to identify where you need to focus, at least in your starting stages, so you develop some traction and then branch off into different things. Great. Mayank, I'll come to you now. I think these are some of the questions which a lot of small business actually have. What are the building blocks of a seamless supply chain? And how does a user experience fit into designing a supply chain? And what are the elements you need to keep fixing in supply chain? So, in a nutshell, how do you get a good supply chain going for your business?
The very first thing for a small business is having a seamless supply chain is a myth, right? It is not something that can be done, right? I mean, I will just list up because I mean, it is just not possible, right? There are big players out there who are just trying to make sure that they are always in stock, not out of stock, right? Amazon goes out of stock, right? Most of the time, when you try and buy some good product on Amazon, it is out of stock, right? There's a reason they're not able to do it. And one of the biggest challenges that we young businesses face is working capital blockage, right? The more you want to grow, the more working capital you need. Correct. I mean, that is one of the biggest challenges that we face. So I try and play my thing around it. I can just give you a few examples on what I do, right? One of the biggest mistakes that I did, when I started out was source everything from other countries, right? So here
Okay.
what happens, yeah. So here what happens is, while it's easier and you get at a cheaper rate, the problem is the turnaround time, right? It takes anywhere between 60 to 90 days, ideally speaking, for anything to come in, and you need to pay them in advance, right? So you block a lot of working capital there, and then there's even a small disruption. What happens is, you just go out of stock, because we tend to plan in a way where, we know that we have stocks for 60 days, and we need to plan for the next 60 days in a way that even if you're going out of stock, the other supply should come in within the next 1 week, right? That is the turnaround
Correct.
time that we have because of the working capital shortage, right? Everything is revolved around the money that you have, right? Because you can do only that much business in the end. Correct. So when you're thinking of products, when you're building products, right, try and think of building products which are done locally, which can be procured locally, and which can be procured every week or maybe every month, right? One of the biggest learnings, while you might see that there are other countries who give it to you at a cheaper price, save that for later, right? Start your business, make sure you don't go out of stock, build the traction that you need to build, and slowly things will start evolving, right? Today I don't have to think twice on where I need to source from, right? Those are the challenges of the past, and if I would have known this earlier, that I can source it locally as well, and then think of the bigger picture, it would have made a lot of things very easy for me, right? To reach that 1,000, you need to serve those 1,000 properly, right? And when we are only thinking of
Correct.
the 1,000, right, you're thinking that I will source that 1,000 at X amount and then make more money here. But in the process of making this money, you forget that the user experience is getting hampered. Right? You don't have anything right now to
Ah,
sell. How are you even thinking of doing it at 1,000x, right? So
thousand.
this is one of the, yeah, 1,000, yeah, this is one of the very basic things that I think should be a part of your business, right? Where you're sourcing from, because that will define a lot of things. And how you implement this into your how you implement supply into your user experience is very one of the very basic things that you need to do, I think, is make sure that you are available in all the clusters, right? When you are online, the challenge now when you are online is that there are so many people online that there are certain sellers who will give it to you in 1 day, there are certain who will give it to you in 7 days, and there are certain who will give it to you in 3 days, right? Take an example of Amazon. So a lot of people, when they are browsing on Amazon, right, for example, people looking for a tube light or a speaker, right, they will probably filter, or speaker might not be the right example. Actually, let's say a stainless steel straw, right? There are 10 sellers selling the same type of straws. So how do I
Correct.
as a brand come to you, right? Apart, if imagining everything is the same, you will filter prime, you will filter rating, and you will filter fastest delivery, right? And you need to be
Correct.
there, right? You need to be there. These are the filters that a consumer would do. So what I would suggest you do is replicate your inventory into all Amazon warehouses across, right? Be present in the south geography, in the north, in the west, and in the east. Let's just be everywhere. And then anybody searching from that vicinity, you will be the first one. I have seen a 4x growth personally by just adopting this model, right? And yes, it does require a lot of supply, it does require a lot of planning, but I mean, we'll learn, right? I mean, it's better than having nothing. So it's a process which we learn. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't suggest you have a tech, because if you had the tech, then you would have the infrastructure to have that sort of supply, right? So just start. I mean, like I said, just start. I mean, it's okay, there's nothing to lose, and Amazon just supports you pretty well. And
Great.
again, also how you can build a beautiful user experience is sell on Amazon, sell on marketplaces, right? Because as small businesses, while we might hear a lot of brands saying that we're doing X revenues and Y revenues, which you look up to, you need to understand
Mm-hmm.
that they've reached there by selling on certain marketplaces where they have tried and tested their products, and they've understood that, what, we are making
That's
money here. Now let's use this money to sell on the website, right? Now when you look at an example of a Mama Earth, right, you see that
yeah.
it's such a big brand in personal care, right? So you think they're selling extensively on the website, they do TV commercials, they do everything. But what we don't know is for the first 3 years, they were selling only on Amazon.
Yes.
Right? For the first 3 years, they were available only on Amazon. They made the market there. They got so big that they had the pool of money to actually do anything they want to now. Right? They get so much of funding and all of that. It's on basis of how they were able to test the product in the market and place it the right way. So one advice would be, especially to young and small entrepreneurs, is focus on what you have. Right? While it's good to have a vision, good to have ideals, and good to have a dream, but you really need to focus on what to have right now and how you can build that, while keeping in mind that is where you want to reach, instead of just jumping the gun and going all the way there and then going there and thinking, now what do I do? Right? Because your basics are not right. And supply will play the biggest part in a D2C business, because no matter how much money you have for branding, no matter how much money you have for advertising, till the time you don't have the goods to supply, everything is going to be a waste. Right? So yeah, I think these are the few hacks that I do.
Thanks, Mayank.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks, Mayank. I think it's very interesting. Chris comes from a service based enterprise, and you are in a product based enterprise. And both of you, something which you said in common is focus. Focus on your capabilities. Ensure you leverage that. It's great that you want to grow bigger and better, but leverage your capabilities first before you expand. And one interesting thing you mentioned, Mayank, is there is no seamless supply chain. There are going to be problems in operations. Yeah. That's excellent. I think even Chris must be experiencing it with his clients. It's different in a service industry. It's different in a product industry. The supply chain here becomes how you interact with your stakeholders and your clients. Yes, there is nothing seamless. You need to keep working on it day in and day out. Thank you guys so much. I think this is a very interesting session, and I'm sure the audiences have got a lot of inputs from here. We move on to our very interesting segment. It's called Let's Watch This One. What we do here is we showcase the story of a small local business which may have done something novel. These little acts of innovation can actually be a source of inspiration to other businesses. So now I'll just invite both of you and the audience to watch a video of Mini, our Restart India champion. Can we have that video on, please?
എൻ്റെ പേര് മിനി, ഏഴുപുന്നയിലാണ് വീട്. ഞാൻ എറണാകുളത്ത് വർക്ക് ചെയ്തോണ്ടിരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു കടയിൽ സ്വന്തമായിട്ട് തുടങ്ങണമെന്നൊരാഗ്രഹം തോന്നി. നാട്ടില് വീടിന്റെ അടുത്ത് തന്നെ ഒരു കടയിട്ടു. അവിടെ ഒരു 7 വർഷം കടയിട്ട് എല്ലാം തയ്ക്കുമായിരുന്നു. റെഡിമെയ്ഡ് നൈറ്റിയുടെ വർക്ക് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. എനിക്കൊരു 10 സ്റ്റാഫ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. പിന്നെ 7 വർഷം കഴിഞ്ഞപ്പോൾ ഞാനത് കുറച്ചുകൂടെ വിപുലമായിട്ട് ഒരു കട വേറെ എടുത്തു. അവിടെ നല്ല രീതിയിൽ തന്നെ വർക്ക് കൊണ്ടുപോയിരുന്നു. പിന്നെ ഈ ലോക്ക്ഡൌണിന്റെ ഒക്കെ സമയം ഇത് കാരണം കട അടക്കേണ്ടി വന്നു. ഭിന്നശേഷിയുള്ള ഒരു കുട്ടിയുണ്ട്. ആ കുട്ടീനെ നോക്കാനായിട്ടുള്ള ബുദ്ധിമുട്ട് കാരണമാണ് ഞാൻ വീട്ടിലേക്ക് മാറ്റിയത്. വീട്ടിലും ഇപ്പൊ ഇത് തുടർന്നുകൊണ്ട് പോകുന്നു. കൊറോണയായിട്ട് ലോക്ക്ഡൌൺ തുടങ്ങി. ആ സമയത്താണ് മാസ്ക് നിർബന്ധമായിട്ട് വെക്കണമെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കേട്ടു. പുറത്ത് 10 രൂപ മുതൽ 100-150 രൂപ വരെയുള്ള മാസ്കാണ് വിപണിയിൽ ഇറക്കുന്നത്. ഒരു തയ്യൽക്കാരിയായ ഞാൻ വെറുതെ പൈസ കൊടുത്ത് എന്തിനാണ് മാസ്ക് വാങ്ങിക്കുന്നത്? സ്വന്തമായിട്ട് തയ്ച്ചുകൂടെ എന്ന് ആലോചിച്ചു. എല്ലാരും ചോദിക്കും ഇതെവിടെ നിന്ന് വാങ്ങിച്ചതാണ്. അപ്പൊ ഞാൻ തയ്ക്കണമെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞപ്പോ കൂട്ടുകാരികളും അയൽവക്കത്തുള്ളവരൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞ് ഞങ്ങൾക്കും തയ്ച്ചു തരണമെന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് ഞാൻ എല്ലാവർക്കും തയ്ച്ചു കൊടുത്ത്. ഇത് കണ്ട് കടക്കാരൊക്കെ ഓർഡർ തരാൻ തുടങ്ങി. ഓരോരുത്തർ വന്ന് ചോദിക്കും. 1000-നടുത്തൊക്കെ മാസ്ക് തയ്ച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. യൂട്യൂബിലൂടെ ഞാൻ പുതിയ പുതിയ മെത്തേഡുകളൊക്കെ കാണാറുണ്ട്. ഏത് രീതിയിൽ മാറ്റി മാറ്റി തയ്ക്കാന്ന് കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഈ ഡബിൾ തുണി അപ്പുറം ഇപ്പുറം കൊടുത്തിട്ട് ഡ്രസ്സിന്റെ കളർ അനുസരിച്ചൊക്കെ 2 വശവും നമുക്ക് യൂസ് ചെയ്യാം. അങ്ങനെ മാസ്ക് ഒരു ബിസിനസ്സായിട്ട് കൊണ്ടു നടക്കാന്ന് തോന്നി. ഇപ്പൊ അത് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നു.
To everyone watching, Mini is our Restart India champion. She had a tailoring shop with almost 10 staff members to help her out. But because of COVID, she had to close down her well-established business and had to move her store to her home. She saw how masks were being sold and how the prices of masks were so high. So she started making them, and people in and around her started pouring orders. And she was able to make more than 1,000+ masks. due to which she was able to earn her livelihood and support her family. So these are the kind of stories that we really like in Restart India, and we really salute Mini for not giving up and continuing her good work. Mayank, I'll just come to you first. What Mini did and a lot of other small businesses also do is, the supply chain had got paused, right? It was an unprecedented time. Even now, it's not really taken off like it was before the lockdown. What are your suggestions for small businesses who are still struggling? What is that one thing which you think you can tell them?
I'll just give you an example, right? So what Mini did, we did the same thing during COVID, during the first lockdown, right? We had to pivot the business because while I had stock, there was no movement, right? And the 5 people who were working with us, there's a place for which we need to pay rent, and all our working capital is blocked in our inventory. So how do
Yeah.
we do this, right? And that side of pressure can be difficult because you know that at the end of the month you need to pay these people no matter what, right? And you need to clear all your dues, and you need to pay your suppliers because they have people to pay to, right? So how do we do this? And I think one of the most important things, as entrepreneurs, I mean, because uh, most of us sign up for it, most of us don't have an option but to get into it, right? There are different ways and different reasons why people do this. I wouldn't say everybody does it for the fun and the kick that they get out of it, but there
Yeah.
are a lot of people who do it because they don't have an option, right? You
Correct.
don't really have an option, but you need to do it. So I think as entrepreneurs, one thing in common is that no matter what, you need to hustle, right? I mean, there are thousands of things that are coming to us, right? I mean, it's okay to cry. I mean, I cried, right? It's okay, but then, but then it's also very important that you think on what next, because that is what we do, right? I mean, you think on what's next, and it's very, I mean, I don't know how to put it because there is no solution to this. I mean, there is no one answer to how to solve this problem when it comes to a lockdown or how you do supply, because there's absolutely nothing you can do. But now that it's become a norm, one suggestion would be have a backup, right? Have a backup. So even if you know that there's a lockdown that's going to come, we have a lot of news coming around saying, there is a lockdown happening here, there is a lockdown that is going to happen here, and all these marketplaces are also becoming very accommodating and supportive, right? Find a way around on how you can have your goods stocked up in these warehouses and not in your own warehouse, right? Sign up for the services that Amazon has, that Flipkart has. It is very easy. I mean, anybody needs any help can just call me at any point of time and I'll be more than happy, right? So it's very easy to get onto these services, right? Get onto those services, and then, I mean, half of your problems are solved. If there's a lockdown, you don't have to worry because Amazon is going to fulfill your orders,
Yeah.
right? Flipkart is going
Great.
to fulfill your orders.
So
Outsource
leverage
your
other
warehousing.
businesses
Yes,
for yours.
there are so
Yeah.
many businesses out there that are fulfilling orders for you, not just Amazon and Flipkart, but also if you say run
Others.
a D2C website, right? There are a lot of
Yeah.
solutions out there who are actually providing the services where you just send your goods and they will pack and sell for you, right? All you need to focus is having sure you have inventory and making sure you're selling properly, right? So just sign up to these services, have them as your backup. Might be a little expensive, but it's worth it, right? It's better than doing nothing and taking all the tension. So this would be one of my very first suggestions to anybody who's running a D2C consumer businesses. Sign up for these services because we don't know what's happening next, right? But people are buying for sure, and I'm sure everybody is seeing it, that everybody
Yeah.
is seeing that curve on their chart, irrespective of what they are selling. If they're selling online, it is growing, right? So you don't want it to stop. So just sign up for these and relax.
Thanks, Mayank. Chris, in this lockdown, like what Mini also experienced, a lot of we saw a boom of digital influencers, right? A lot of people were endorsing a lot of products. How can businesses like Mini and other people who are small in nature, how can they become or recruit digital influencers to become ambassadors for their businesses so that they can promote it locally? We're talking about small businesses. What do you think?
So I think Mike used the word there, hustle, right? That it doesn't matter what stage or what kind of business you run. Entrepreneurs have to hustle, no matter what. You're a small scale restaurant, tailor shop, or you're running a national brand. It's still the same. For
Yeah.
for someone who's like Mini, who works in a local community, providing a product within that, and can potentially use marketplaces to ship across the country or even across a local area. One thing that she will understand better than anyone else is the pulse of what's happening around her, right? She'll
Yeah.
know people, she will know what's happening, she'll know her customers, she'll know her neighbors, she'll know people who live in the city. And what she needs to do is, first understand whether influencers make sense for her, if that's the right direction to go. Does she need someone to endorse her product or not? And B, hustle them to get to do it
Yeah.
for her, right?
Yeah.
Just that's what she's got to do. Whether it's just talking to them, giving them free products, getting them to try out, do it as a favor, right? Because from a business like hers, she can't really give influencers or pay influencers money
Yeah.
to be able to endorse her products
Yeah.
in most cases. Sometimes you probably can, but in most cases you're not going to have the money to do that. So get them together, and you have to understand that influencers as well need content to put up on their platforms.
Correct.
They're trying to grow, right? So
Yeah.
for them to be noticed by other people, or if they're thinking from a perspective of being noticed by other brands to promote their products, they need products to promote on their own, right? So that you can actually leverage that and say, hey, you can do this for me, you can get, and they'll grow their following, and you'll get a bit of traction as well. This is actually another key point for people watching out there, is that I'm sure you guys read a lot of articles, magazines online, right? Which are basically digital publications. So you have your newspapers, right? Or your Hindu and New Indian Express and all of that. But other than that, there are a lot of digital publications that I'm sure a lot of you read. A lot of these publications need content. They only have like a few content writers, and they outsource all their content to freelancers, right? And there's only so much content that's out there that they can actually write, so they need content. So don't hesitate to try sending across your article or the story about your business or a story about your product over to these digital publications and see if you get featured. I'm pretty sure if you send about 10 to 20 of those emails out, you might get featured in a couple of them, which will grow your business exponentially, right? Because now you're reaching to thousands, 10,000s, potentially
Yeah.
100,000s of readers, right? So that's something else that you can leverage. It's not the same as an influencer, but it's the same process. You're trying to leverage someone else's following to gain more traction for your business.
That's a very, very interesting point, Chris. I think we can use it in Restart India as well. And something which both of you actually mentioned is leveraging somebody else's reach, right? So, something which we want to do at Restart India and we really believe in is amplifying the voice of our small business. So, Chris, I think you have got some articles from us as our celebration. We had
Oh,
two
yeah.
really amazing entrepreneurs make masks, which is branded with our name now,
Yep, it
and
wasn't just the
and a
mask.
bag.
Yep,
This
I'm
mask and a
walking around my town in Cochin,
oh,
in
lovely.
Kerala, with this, going to the supermarket. It's really helpful. So thanks a lot for this.
Mayank will be happy. Mayank, it's a sustainable solution. It's not a
Yep,
plastic bag. It's something
that
which
is
that
true.
you keep using, right? So at Restart India, we just had this idea that while we wanted to gift our mentors and our community something when we turned one to thank them for all their support. The best way to do that was amplify voices of these two amazing ladies, Girija and Parvati. And we shared the masks and the bags they made to all our mentors and supporters like Chris here. Chris, I just wanted to ask you, how did you feel when you got something like this? Did it remind you of anything? What did you think? What were your first emotions?
I mean, my first emotion was just seeing impact. What I've done in terms of helping Restart India out has been minuscule compared to the actual impact that has happened on the ground with these small businesses, right? And I come from a place where my business was affected too, but I know my where how I stand and stuff like that. I mean, I know a lot of these small businesses would have gone through so much during that period of time just to make ends meet, right? And a lot of us have the privilege, and I acknowledge that privilege, that we didn't have to go through that in terms of making our ends meet completely, right? And just to see so many businesses to be affected, to have been able to get through the last year and to come on to the other side and be successful. Just reading the story of Girija and everyone who's gone through this was really amazing. Yeah. So that was generally
Thanks.
my first emotion when I saw all that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chris. And to everyone who's listening, please do head to our website. We are going to come up with something new where, in our small way, we are going to amplify voices of these small businesses, and you can definitely help. We have a few minutes left, but we really need to get to some of these questions our audiences have asked. I am just going to straight away start with the first question. So, Hema Abhijit asks, what does it take to turn a normal city into a Silicon Valley startup supporting city? We have seen startups like Swiggy, Zomato running with losses for a long time. Where exactly can technology help fit in for us? How can tech fit into supply chain? I think it's for both of you. So please, what do you think? Mayank, you want to go
Um,
first? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind. Yeah. So answering the question of how tech fits into supply chain,
Yeah.
I think initially it wouldn't, right? Because you wouldn't have the resources or the volumes to actually have any sort of tech solutions, right? While there are a lot of tech solutions out there, to name a couple of them would be something called a brown tape or a Zoho book or a Zoho inventory, right? For small businesses to just have their inventory online, right? Please go ahead on and use these tools. These are not very expensive, right? These tools can help you manage your supply chain into a D2C structure that we are talking about, where you have a lot of products and inventory where you sell, and it's easier to maintain what is there, what is not there. Coming to how we see startups like Swiggy and Zomato running with losses, so we need to understand that these are disruptions, right? These are not normal businesses that happen on a daily basis. When a Swiggy or a Zomato came in, nobody believed in them, and today everybody is buying them. And this took a lot of money, right? It took a lot of efforts for them to actually get people to use digital and use e-commerce or use a phone to buy or do things in general, right? More than looking at it from a profit or a loss angle, I think you need to look at an angle where it's changed the way people live, right? I mean, and that is very important because now that so many people use Swiggy and Zomato on a phone, they know what all things can you do on a phone, and that is where you and me are able to sell digitally to these people,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, when we look at them as businesses that are loss making and why they even exist, we also need to realize that since they exist, our businesses exist, right? Or else it might either have to be you or me who would have to spend that sort of money and bear that sort of losses to actually get these people on board to even use your product, right?
Very
So it
interesting
would
perspective, Mayank.
yeah, so it would be wrong to tell that these are loss making businesses. How do you do that? You should think of in a way that these are disruptive businesses, and what sort of disruption can you think of, right? Take it in a way where if they can do it in the food sector with tech, where can you do it, right? and
Exactly. Right.
and if you have such ideas, capital is the last problem that you will ever face, right? Do you ever hear them facing capital problems? No,
No.
right? All you hear them facing is how can we get more people to use tech, right? If you have something like that, I think you are going to be like the next Swiggy Zomato. And if you need any help with capital, again, I can probably help you finding that, right? And I mean, so yeah, I mean, look at it in a positive way on how it's helped grow the ecosystem, and if you have something, how you can help grow it bigger.
Great. Chris, any of your thoughts in the same question?
Yeah, so it really depends on where their business is, right? But Mayank answered two really good pointers right there. Was one is that there is infrastructure out there that you can leverage. You don't have to build your own supply chain. There is infrastructure out there that you can leverage. The entire Zoho suite, I haven't used it personally, but I think it's free. Most of the tools that they have are free, or like Mayank said, very low cost. They are built for the Indian ecosystem, and hence you can just tap into that. There are multiple other fulfillment tools out there that come at a really cheap cost, which help you to deliver that, which is your last mile delivery, right? Which is a huge struggle that a lot of Indian businesses faced up till about 3 to 4 years back, or around 3 years back, right? Until these guys came onto the scene. So that is one. The second thing around how does it, the first question actually, what does it take to turn a normal city into a Silicon Valley startup supporting city? See, the best example here is Gurgaon and Bangalore, or Delhi and Bangalore, right? Delhi and Bangalore produce all the startups in India. Mumbai and Chennai has Zoho, of course, and it's a SaaS based capital. But Mumbai and Chennai don't produce as many startups as Delhi and Bangalore. The reason behind that is that when the startup boom happened about a decade and 12 to 13 years back, there were a few people and individuals as well as groups on the ground that helped create an ecosystem in the city, right? By creating an ecosystem in the city and allowing startups to be able to have access to capital. Mayank said capital isn't a problem anymore. Go back to 2008, it was a huge problem. Like there
Yeah.
was no structured capital, there was no way to raise funds, right? So creating local ecosystems is very, very important. It's where Bangalore and Gurgaon startups over there have no issues in terms of capital, in terms of meeting businesses, meeting other startups, accelerators, incubators, all of it, right? So your city needs to have that right from the start. And a lot of that work has to be done, A, by the government, and B, by educational institutions. It has to grow from your colleges, and then proceed into the real world, which also needs a lot of ecosystem help, right? So that's just wanted to address that first point in terms of what can be done for that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. I know we are running short of time, but I will take this last question. Purnima from Kota asks, what are some effective ways to measure a business's overall brand impression after it has been marketed? Quick thoughts on this, Chris?
Yeah, I mean that's a little difficult to answer in terms of, so you have to understand like where all have you actually marketed? Are you talking about offline or online, right? But if you are talking about online marketing, every single tool that you will use online will always give you the overall impressions that your marketed product or ad would have gone out to. So that is one area that you can see. The second thing that you want to see, if you are an online brand, people should be able to start searching for you after a period of time, right? So you market your brand for a period of 6 to 9 months or whatever time period you want to create that awareness out in the market, right? But then what's the hope? After you've created that awareness in the market, people should start coming to you, right? So two main metrics that you need to look at is, one, on your Google Analytics, if you have a website, see how many people are coming directly to your website, right? They're not coming through social media, they're not coming through Facebook, they're not coming through Google search, they are coming directly to your website. That means your marketing or your brand marketing activities have been successful, right? When I say see how many, see if there's been an increase, right? Don't expect to go from 5 people coming directly to your website to 5,000. It's not going to happen,
Correct.
right? But if you've seen a 5 to 100 or a 200, it's because of your brand marketing activities. That is one. Second thing is, Google provides a tool which allows you to see how many people are searching for your brand name over a period of time. See if there's been any sort of spike at all, right? The numbers that it gives is very arbitrary. It just says 0 or 1, which is, I don't know why Google does that, but just see if it's gone from 0 to halfway to 1, right? See if your brand has been talked about online more, right? And I think that will be another way to see if your overall brand marketing activities have helped you improve your brand impression in the market.
Thanks. Thank you, Chris. We already overshot our time by 4 minutes, but thank you so much for being a part of this session. Chris, for also supporting us through this 1 year and continuing to do so. Mayank, welcome to the Restart India ecosystem. And you have mentioned multiple times that you'll be happy to help out any small businesses directly. So thank you for that. Everyone watching, thank you so much for tuning in. I think we learned a lot from both Chris and Mayank, and we are definitely hoping we can get them on the next round again. If you have more questions for them, please do post it. We will try and get it answered by them and post it on our website, www.restartindia.in. Please do log on, sign in, get involved. You can also help small businesses like Girija, Parvati, the masks which we have now, and the bags which we are doing. Please become a local brand ambassador in your own town and in your own city and help people shop small. Thank you so much for joining in. Good night, everyone.